I want you guys to introduce who you are, where you're from, how long you've been fighting, and what you're hoping to glean from this class. Okay? Just go really quick, because we've got a lot to cover today.
I'm Barlow from Florida. Been fighting since 2009, and just hoping to like my family.
Malachi from Texas, and I've been fighting since 2009. To find my business.
I'm Charles. I'm from Texas. Been here about I've been fighting for about 9 months, and there's no really backspace for me. I'm just building
Started back in September. Swiss from Florida. Been fighting about 2-ish years, and just gain some basic skills.
Derek, Chattanooga. Been fighting for 5 years. I'm here to get back. I'm Brock from Neverwinter, Florida. Just here to learn knowledge and power.
Emrys from Crest Haven. Been fighting 20 years. It's always good to get back with you.
Shinzo of High Spires, Atlanta. I've been fighting for 4 years. For everyone else, I'm Ender from Atlanta. I've been fighting 5 years, and I'm trying to unlearn some bad habits and gain some good ones.
John from Auburn, Alabama. I've been fighting for 4 years.
I'm Jake from New York. I've been fighting for about 4 years, and I'm just here to really work on my basics.
Emma, Gainesville, Florida. Fighting for 14 years. Trying to get back to basics and see what else I can cover.
Michael, I've been fighting since 2003. It's really about getting back reconditioning, making sure that my base form is good.
Cameraman.
I'm Xander. I'm here because I'm trash. I've been fighting for 10 years.
How long have you been fighting?
I started in October 2006, so coming on 10 years now.
I started in 2001, and we've both played heavily tag, so for a long time. Then I found him for Okay, so first thing we want to talk about in this Back to Basics class. We just got here. Introduce yourself.
Justin Fisher.
Justin Fisher. Hi, Justin. How long have you been fighting, Justin?
Since about mid-90s.
Mid-90s? Very good. What are you hoping to glean from this class?
Just want to remember what it was like to begin.
Okay. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about how you're holding your weapon. Okay? Now, there's basically two grips that I'll use commonly, right? But first off, let's take a look at our hand. All right? So with your hand, there's basically two axes in which your hand bends, right? Your fingers with your knuckles all bend basically flat against your wrist like this, right? Or slightly on angle depending how your hand is built, right? So you have this axis. Then you have your thumb that bends this way, right? Right? Like the actual inside of your palm back, right? So if you bend both of those, what you get is you get like a little triangle of your palm that doesn't actually bend, right? Right? Now, when you hold your weapon, you want your sword to basically sit like right at the apex of this triangle on this knuckle is where the end of your sword handle is going to sit, right?
Those of you with gloves on, this is a lot easier without them. If it's easy enough to take them off.
Right? So it's going to sit right there. Right? Now, your thumb is going to come up, so your sword actually runs right down that inside curve of your thumb, like that meaty part of your thumb. Yeah. And we're not even gripping it with our like our actual thumb part, right? We're just this meaty part. Now then your fingers are going to wrap around like this, and then your thumb's going to grip. Now if you let go with everything but your thumb and forefinger, your forefinger should be holding the weapon in this mid-digit right here, and your thumb will be holding it, and they'll be right about the same height. If your thumb is higher than your finger, it's not good. If your thumb is lower than your finger, then your hand is built really weird, and it's also not. Okay? Now there's a couple of reasons that we do this for this, and I'll get into it, and I'll keep coming back to it. Right? So then when you actually grip, all you're going to do is wrap your fingers around like this. Now if you look at it again, when you're holding that weapon, basically this becomes an extension of your arm. Right? And all of these motions and shots that we do, you're not going to have to use your wrist to throw anything. The only thing your wrist is going to do is minor modifications to the target. Okay? Your wrist is really very weak. Right? Whereas your elbow is a little bit stronger, and your shoulder is quite a bit stronger, and your core is basically the strongest part of your body, unless you're a gorilla. Right? Now, if your thumb is higher than your finger, okay, what you risk happening is when somebody hits your weapon, right, all that force goes into your thumb. You can feel it. If you fight for like an afternoon and you're like, man, like my hand hurts, not my palm, but like down here in my wrist, like the top of my hand, my thumb, that starts getting really tired. Take a look at your hand and take a look at how you're holding it. Right? It only takes about 15 pounds of like shock pressure, like shock force to actually do damage to the thumb. Right? And it's the sort of thing that'll hurt, and you'll be like, man, my thumb really hurts. After a couple of weeks, you'll be like, oh, it feels okay. And then you'll fight, and you'll be like, man, my hand hurts again. That's the reason why. Because you're doing damage to the tendons, and you're stretching things that shouldn't be stretched. So you got to take care of your thumb. So make sure that your forefinger and thumb are in line with each other. Okay? Now, if your forefinger and thumb are in line with each other, and you take a block, so you swing and hit my weapon, right? Now, when you hit this, you'll start feeling it once you hold it correctly. You're holding your weapon like this. Once that shock, when somebody hits, that shock will, instead of going into my thumb, it actually transfers into the palm of my hand right here in these front two knuckles, right? And then that goes straight into my wrist and straight into my shoulder, and so and then into my core, into my mass. So my mass absorbs the shock rather than my stab in the palm. Right? Now, also, if you look, if any of you guys have done martial arts and stuff, or if any of you guys have gotten upset and punched your little brother or sister, or older brother or sister, or hopefully not significant other, or a wall or anything, right? And if you punch and you hit with like the bottom part of your hand, it hurts like hell, right? These bones right here in the palm of your hand, on the bottom part of your hand, they don't actually line up with your wrist in a way that's meant to absorb a shock. When you punch with these front two knuckles, because those bones go straight into your wrist, which goes straight into your forearm, which goes straight into your upper arm and into your shoulder, right? So when you catch that block, when you're holding this correctly, that force travels from these knuckles into your wrist. Everything is very locked solid. This is basically the safest way that you can hold a weapon and get really efficient use out of it.
So you'll see a lot of people who see other people doing this, and what they'll do is they'll grip it like a hammer and turn their wrist out. From a distance, that looks pretty similar to what you're doing. That's not it. If you grab it the way Peter's showing you, your wrist sort of naturally falls into that turned out sort of style, and that's what you want. You don't want to be cranking your wrist right out here because you saw Peter do it. It's just the grip will automatically give it.
Okay, so if I'm holding my hand straight forward, basically it looks like I'm holding it palm out, right? Okay, and that's basically it. It causes that natural turnout. Okay. Now, the other thing, the hammer grip that AJ was talking about, just like I was talking about, hammer grip is also useful. Okay, it's useful for putting in nails. It's useful for putting in tent posts. It's very good for like whack-a-mole games and things like that. But it does have uses in this. If you really need to club somebody, you'll probably get a little bit more force from the tip of your sword if you pound somebody with a hammer. That being said, there's a reason for that. Okay? The tip of your hammer grip, you have to be actually closer to somebody to hit them. Or for me to hit him with my hammer grip sword, right? I have to be, right? I'm holding modified saber grip. See what I mean? That makes sense, right? That's pretty simple physics, right? Consequently, if I'm swinging my sword, to hit him, right, and I'm holding a hammer grip, right, I'm gonna start my swing from right here, right? Now, the tip of my sword has to travel from here, and my hand actually has to travel past the point of impact, right? Now, if I'm holding a modified saber grip, my sword travels from here to here, my hand only has to travel to the point of impact. It doesn't have to travel past, right? That makes sense? Right? So the modified saber grip helps with your shot actually landing faster, right? It comes to the point quicker, right? Now another thing that's interesting about him, right? So if I lean against this, there's not a ton of strength to that. If he goes to a modified saber grip, right? Like he can actually hold me up quite a bit easier. Okay? Now the reason for that is because if you're holding this like this is pushing against this, right? Like your arm is actually not between you and the force, right? But if you're holding a modified saber grip, your arm is actually down the force of the, like the incoming force of the weapon. Does that make sense? Okay. And there's more to this. Modified saber, but we're going to move to our feet. Okay, so your feet. Now, in basic sword fighting, your feet will increasingly become the most important part of sword fighting, right? It's really great to be able to throw a really good flat wrap, hold your sword right, do all that stuff great, to be able to block really well. But if your feet don't move, you just get eaten alive by people whose feet do move. Okay? Now, the easiest way to move your feet is to stand right to begin with. Right? So when you're standing, when I'm fighting single sword, I will have my weapon foot forward. Almost all the time. Right? If you like doing the other way, that's more power to it, but you should still stand correctly. Now when you stand correctly, I like my weapon foot forward. If you're going to stand like this, that's fine too. We can go into that why. Tomorrow, the Slayer. So if you look at, like I just kind of went to my natural, like where I stand, like where I like to stand when I fight. If you look, my heels are about shoulder width apart. This heel here, this toe is pointed at my opponent, which is really important. I'll talk about that in a second. This heel is basically in line with this toe. If you want a 90-degree bend off of the back of my foot, right? Now, basically, with your feet, the further they are apart, the less you can move. The closer they are together, the easier. This is my core, right? This is where my center of mass is right here. And my feet are this far apart to start with. And I take a step this way. My core travels this way. If this is my core, we travel this far, and my feet are this far apart, and I take another step this way, my core will go this way. Your legs are only so long. Pretty simple, right? But how often do you see people out there fighting like this? Right? And then, right? It feels really comfortable because you feel like you can change your you can change your balance really easily, which is true. The wider your base is, the easier you can change your balance but the harder it is for you to actually cover ground. So especially for you shorter people, it's very important for you to watch your feet. Taller people can get away with it more because they have longer legs. Okay? Makes sense, right? Yeah. Now, let's talk about pointing your toe at somebody. Right? So when you point your toe at somebody, your knee points at them, your knee is all down. And your hip is in line with them, which is also connected to your shoulder. Okay? Now, if you swing at somebody and your shoulder is in line with them because your toe is in line with them, right? This becomes the apex of your swing. This becomes the apex of your swing. This is the furthest distance which you can reach from your shoulder to the tip of your sword. If you turn your toe away from him, that changes, right? So, right, I can hit him. I'll keep my shoulder in the same spot. Crazy, right? It may be very subtle, but it makes a big difference.
The difference between a 33 and a 34 maturity.
Right? So make sure you're pointing your toe at your opponent. So I am your opponent. Get in your fighting stance. Spread out a tiny bit. Okay? Now, when you're going to move, you take a step forward, you step forward with your forward foot. If you take a step back, you take a step back with your back foot. You take a step to your right, you take a step to your right with your right. Good the other. If you take a step to your left, you take a step with your left foot. Simple, right? But how often do you see, young fighters or inexperienced fighters, or people who are just kind of ungainly, go like this? Okay? Okay. So I'm your opponent. Point your toe at me. Get your modified saber grip. Take a step to your right. Take a step to your left. Take a step back. Take a step forward. Simple, right? Too simple. Look at your toe. How many of you guys had to correct your toe?
Y'all already did it. So real quick about the toe as well. Peter's in a good position to tell you that knees are important and you shouldn't break it. If you are lunging, toe pointed in, all that stress is going to the outside tendons of your knee. Most anyone who did sports in high school or watch football, you know what that means. It means you're going to blow out your knee eventually. If not now, then next year. Or the year after. But it's going to happen. This is biomechanically correct and safe. It's back to the like grip. This will keep you healthy. This puts you in knee braces like all the old fighters.
Yep. All right. Now let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about your back foot. Okay? If your back foot is too far forward, right, it's really easy for you to step side to side, but it's actually a little more difficult for you to step forwards or backwards. Okay? If your feet are in line with each other like this, like some kind of fencing fighter, it's really easy for you to take a step forward or take a step back. And it's quite a bit harder to take a step sideways. Right? So what you want to do is you want to find a happy medium. Your legs and your hips are not my legs and my hips. Your legs are different lengths than mine. You will find what's comfortable for you. Right? So all I can do is kind of guide you to where that might be. So I want you to go into your fighting stance, like where you feel natural. AJ and I will come around and we will move your feet around and make you stand not the way you're standing. Okay?
watching you as you're talking to me. Walking. There you go. That's still a little wide, but that's a good start. Really hard to get used to. Okay, bounce a little, take a couple steps, watch it. Oh, okay. And then again, same thing, your feet are too wide. And again, you want to, and this isn't like sumo, nobody's pushing you over. This is correct. Here, like, you really value your health, you really value the walls. So yeah, your feet, almost everybody's feet are too wide. It feels more right.
And at the same time, show us your modified saber grip.
Oh yeah, gloves off. Let me see your work. This is an issue with flat blades that some people have. But this is a little unnatural because you're not really gripping the blade. This feels a lot more like a hammer. You really want to grip. Try again. Go through the exercise. Make the crease. Let it sit. Pinch between your thumb and forefinger. Now point the blade at me. No, blade. Yeah, good start. And again, you want to make sure that you're gripping here. You're holding it like this, and the rest of your hand is there for support. Same. Let's see how your thumbs are. Like, go. And just do it from the beginning. Crease, or grip with your thumb forefinger first. It really helps the rest of your hand. And now grip with the rest of your hand. Good. Now point it at me. Good. Quick outside check. Yeah. You have the opposite problem. Your stance is not too limited. Your fencing background, you're saying now. So, normally when I'm talking to you, body language. Take a half step forward with your sword. See how you like really felt the need to adjust your hip to. Try again without. No, it's okay. That's why we're here. There you go. There you go. I know. It takes a little getting used to because it is a halfway point. It's not the sumo and it's not the fencing. That's perfect. There you go. That is your happy stance back straight, sit into it, and that is beautiful. That's your grip. So again, let go, grip with your thumb and forefinger. Keep the hands out. Extending your pinky, right? You're now close with the rest of your hand gently, but gripping with these two. Now, a nice little outside chop. Feel a little cleaner? You're good, don't hurt. This is not baseball. It's okay, now you're good. Alright, so you were right, your feet a little wide to get just like you're talking to me. Okay, half step forward. Up into a guard. Alright, let's take a look. Belly button. High cross. Good. Make the crease. Grip with your thumb and forefinger first. Thumb and forefinger. Grip with your thumb and forefinger. Close your hand around. There, perfect. Got it. Put outside chop. See how clean that is? It takes a little getting used to here. Get up on the outside here. Like you're blocking your. Very good. Let's move it a half inch. I'm not pulling it. Another one. I'm just right. Okay. Alright, so that's actually it. Your feet are good. Let me see your grip. So yeah, perfect. You're good. Good. Feet are too wide.
Too wide.
So too wide out. So go ahead and like put in like you're standing, just talking to me. You're like a half step forward with that. Good. Look at me, back straight. Perfect. Look at guard. Alright, so let's get you good. So make the crease with your hand like Peter showed you. Yeah, thumb and forefinger first. Extend your other leg. Grip with that. Remember, you're gripping on either side. See how you're. Yeah, alright. Put your hand around it. Point the blade at me. You block. You block. Get down the guard. Fair chop. Cool. But see how you, as you were doing that, you shifted around to where your thumb is over your forefinger.
Yep.
Make sure you're gripping the sword between the meat here, like on the knuckle. Thumb, meat on the thumb. That's that's the power in your grip. Here, this is coming in, headshots coming in. This is where the power is coming out. These are just there to back up. These are your seatbelts.
Gotcha.
Put your hand around that. Try again.
You can feel right a little
Yeah,
bit.
you can feel it start to slip a little, like you're not resetting. So that's what feels like. Cool.
There's just that habit of, you know, when you first start riding, it's that habit of, I don't want to get.
What we'll get to you a little later.
I feel it for flat blades. I feel it this way.
So that,
Same areas.
and here, and what that does for a flat blade is give you this nice clean flat. It's amazing how the sword coming around my rider.
The natural area is that slight angle.
Yeah, instead of having the throw lead, all you have to do is doing the range line. Nose are flat wraps when you get to the bar. I think military is definitely
All right, so let's talk about flat blades for a second. I think Slayguard went through and talked to most of you guys in the flat blade, and I talked to one of them. Now, for the flat blade, basically it's exactly the same, except when you first hold your weapon up to put it in your hand, you're going to hold it flat to the world, right? And your pointer finger is going to come on the outside flat, and your thumb is going to come on the inside flat. When you grip it right here like this, right? Now, this makes it so when you chop, see how the blade now is forward? Right? When I have that natural position where I'm holding it, the blade comes forward. It's really easy for me to transition so the blade goes, so the inside blade comes flat.
So when you're holding it, thumb, forefinger, you can roll that a little, right? You get different angles with it. Now, congrats, you're a bat user too.
Make sense? You'll have questions once we get into swinging shots. Are there any questions thus far?
I get a lot tighter, and when I tried to modify the scissors, inside of my hand started to let this go away.
It means you're trying to hold it with these bottom fingers rather than holding it like this. So what he's doing is he's trying to grip it more like you would a hammer and holding it with these bottom fingers. Right? All these bottom fingers are going to do is help stabilize your weapon. Right? Now, your thumb and forefinger are what's going to actually keep the weapon in your hand. Right? When you swing or when you block. Right? Yeah. Okay. No questions thus far?
Question.
Sure. What will also help for you flat blade users, especially if you've got a really short handle like him. If you actually hold it like right here and you put your thumb on the flat, you hold it right up, and then let that thing grip. It'll basically be. Your thumb and forefinger are going to come flat. When I was figuring this out, I was holding my weapon on the bottom.
On the